I'm going to be talking to you about SaaS, an augmented reality transient hunter that we have built using Zwiki Transient Facility transients. So I'm from Caltech, the Center for Data Driven Discovery, and at Ayuka. And this app, of course, is going to be worldwide, even if ZTF catches the transients and they're only northern sky. It is such that we can also incorporate southern objects and objects from other surveys, etc. And these are the various contributors. Dhruv, who is here, you can raise your hands and wave to them. He has been doing most of the programming for the app itself in Java, and he's a fantastic coder. And later on, you can come and talk to either of us about the actual app and what more can be done with that. So ZTF has a variety of transients and variables. Every night we find of the order of 100,000 objects that vary in brightness that we post to the sky. And many of these are variables which have been seen before. Many are supernovae, which we classify with various machine learning methods. And then there are supernovae, and there are AGNs, TDs, and all kinds of other things. And because there are 100,000, and if we were to serve 100,000 on any kind of app, it will just overwhelm everybody. What we have been doing is that we have been selecting 50 to 200 every night, and then every night at UTC equal to 0, these get posted, provided the data were taken the previous night. Last several nights, maybe you have been hearing Southern California has been having some strange cold weather, and so we are not observed at all for the last few days. So the current data set that's in the app is from 10 days back. But why the game? So when you look at the variety of transients, we thought that they're not too different from the variety that you see in Pokemon. Right? You have Pokemon of various kinds. There are bugs, and there are darks, and there are dragons, electric, ice Pokemon, water Pokemon, and so on. So you can see that transients are like Pokemon or vice versa, right? And then you'd want to have Pokemon prior. So when you are trying to catch a Pokemon, if you know where they are likely to be, you're more likely to be able to find them. And in the transients, it's something similar. If you know the priors of these transients, then you will be able to make more sense out of that. So you need to look in specific areas for Pokemon. Similarly, transients, extragalactic transients, they will have high galactic latitude, whereas galactic variables, they will have low galactic latitude. So that's how differentially you can find them. The frequencies too of Pokemon are known, similarly of transients they are known, but there too you can find fainter transients or transients that are anomalies. Anomalies are typically like tip of an iceberg, because they reveal that there is an iceberg below and you should be able to go and find those entire families. So that's the correspondence that we started to make. And so this game, which we are calling Zarth, is modeled after Pokemon Go. So think of it like transient Go. So what do we do? Right? So in AGU 2016, that was already several years ago, we presented this as a simple concept. At the time we were using CRT as data. And so a team started building a simple interface for that, and they quickly realized how complex it can be if you want to do it into a meaningful game. So they got up to the point where we could serve the transients, but it was more like a static game where you could go after that, after the set of transients, but there was no catching involved and so on. You could simply see those. And then what we said is that the catching part will be more interesting, and then in order to do that, what we need to do is that we need to have certain costs associated with these transients, certain points that you can get back from that. So that's what we started doing. So we modeled this after the SkyMap interface, which is an open source thing that originally Google started and then they open sourced it. And so what you have is that typically this is the SkyMap menu that you see on the left, and we added this symbol of the telescope, which is what serves the transients. But of course we cannot serve all the transients. This is how the density will look on the sky if we have everything. On the x-axis is RA going from 0 to 360. On the y-axis you have DEC going from about -20 all the way to 90, because it's the northern hemisphere that we covered. So we figured out ways to sparsify that. So we have a certain set of filters called ASI filters. We take our transients and ask ourselves, was that a persistent source? If so, it's going to be a variable. Is that a source which doesn't show any associated galaxy? Then it's likely to be an orphan transient. And if there is an associated galaxy, whether the object is closer to the center of the galaxy, if it is closer to the center of the galaxy, then it could be an AGN or a tidal disruption event, or a supernova that's close to the center of the gravity, center of galaxy. Whereas if it is away from the center of the galaxy, it's more likely to be a supernova. So we have these four categories: orphans, nuclear, posted, and variables. And then there's also a fifth filter, bogus, so an additional layer of removing bogus objects. And then we select from these, and then additionally what we do is that we need to sub-select in magnitude also. So those are the additional things. So all objects from one night, objects which are real, 55%. So that doesn't mean that the 45% are bogus. We have a stringent thing about 0.9, so we want to be absolutely sure that they are real. And still, there may be some that may not be, and that is where the citizen science would come in. And within that, then high hosted, low nuclear, high orphan, and high variable, low nuclear. Those get selected. And from within that, we also say that these need to have been selected both in R and G, because that's an additional level of consistency. And then we further sparsify it over the sky. So these are about 10% from that, and we really still need to pare it down because that's still a very large number. So if you start with something like this, then when you add a few filters, it goes down to this and then to this. So this is 197 from a given night, and that's a number that we are happy with within Go. The additional thing that we do during filtering is that we make sure that no two objects are within 10 degrees of each other, and yeah, so that way it's sparsified. So this is overall gamification elements that we have. So ZARP, ZDF data filtering, point system for transients, keeping track of users, catches, global, regional leaderboards, etc. Generate smaller representative sets, and this can lead to separate classroom module also. So if you start catching these transients, how will it look? So let's look at what it is. So this I already described what kind of objects we have. Then we also do a segregation within magnitudes. So if there are very bright magnitudes, some of them could be artifacts, but they can also be very rare ones. So they can have a low grade to start with, but your returns can be high. And if you have fainter than 20, again, that can start going into noise. So the ones that are in between are the more interesting ones. We add one more factor to it. If an object already has a spectrum, a known spectrum as known by the transient name server, then it's likely to be more interesting. And in fact, what we are doing is that catching these transients for specific points, we want to make it into a game more like something like investing. So what we have is we give points to them, and then we have a scheme whereby the points change if they have more spectra. So if you catch a transient today, and an astronomer takes a transient tomorrow or later, then what that means is that the astronomers find that transient to be interesting, so you'll get more points later. Right away when you catch a transient, you do get certain number of points, but that will go on increasing. And what we have is a nightly quota. So every night you get about 2,000 points. That's a number that we are playing around with right now. It's a beta test phase, and soon it will be fully released. So you can register for a beta test right now. Send us your email. There is a form. I'm going to distribute a few cards, but come and talk to us later. So you can get involved in the beta testing right now as well. But when it is released, then it will be open for everyone, and more things can be done with it. So one can do the STEM competitive campaigns, trying different kinds of sources against each other, but also looking for anomalies. And this is where citizen science could also be done. Understanding from what we have served, if you find something that's slightly different and be able to get back to us, those could be interesting discoveries, because they've gone through certain phases. We think that they are of a certain type, but there would be things that look like one but are something else, or they fall into two categories, etc. So there's one more layer that's being added for that. So currently what we have is we do filtering, there are nightly transients, there are on-click pop-ups, account creation, users can choose names, pop-up for transients. So this is the interface that you start with, and then these are the two pop-ups that you see. The first pop-up, when you click on a transient, you simply see what kind of object it is. These are placeholders, these are going to be changed. And then you get RADEC magnitude, there's more info on that. And then actually this is a slightly older one, I realize now. So we have slightly different information, but the more detailed information that you want is what are the points that are available, whether it exists, what is the cost, what is the rarity of the object, and most importantly, the reference image, the science image, and the difference image, plus a light curve, as you see from it. So that allows you to understand, and that is where the outreach component comes in, so people can learn what kind of objects these are, but also see if something is called a variable, what kind of variety of variables there is. So at some point we may go into sub-classification of this, introducing various sub-variable classes as well. And this is how things look then. So we have the ZARP help giving you details about what we are talking about. There's a collection, what transients you have collected. There is a leaderboard, so who are leading with points, and there is going to be a weekly leaderboard also. And then there are various settings that so some of these are from original Sky map which have not been changed right now, but those will also be modified. So these are the ones that have been added recently, and this is how your collection will look. So there are hosted transients, orphan transients, etc. And then you have got points and number of catches that you have, and then there is the various numbers again describing where you stand in the leaderboard. And again, I would like to mention that there will be regional leaderboards, there is a weekly leaderboard, and there will be an all-time leaderboard. And these will be reset once the game actually starts. So beta testing, you can catch a few transients, help us understand what may be the errors or things that are not happening correctly, etc. And this is going to be a demo. This is not a video, but we have something that we can show you. So what the next future steps are going to be is to make sure that we add all legal things. We are not collecting any data from you, for instance. That will simply be your email address that sits there. You can choose a username, but we don't store any of the location information or any other information. It does ask you for permissions initially. That is mainly so that whatever transients you catch, it's going to store it locally on your phone so that you can go back to them later to see what your catches are. You can transfer it to others, show it to others, etc. Right now it exists only on Android, but we'll be making it for iPhone as well at some point. And then there'll be layers for new caught transients. Periodic leaderboards we already have, and we may be including audio and haptic feedback because that gives you a more gamification kind of experience on that. It'll be released soon. There'll be STEM campaigns, citizen science, etc. How much more time do we have? 3 minutes. Okay, so I'll just show you from here how it looks. It's like a sky map. You may not be able to see it, but come and talk to us later. So it starts, and then the first time it'll ask you for to sign in with your Google ID and your username, which in this case is not going to happen if I am signed in already. And it's like the sky map interface where as you move around you can see the sky. And then the leaderboards, this is the menu with the telescope, and this is where the collection leaderboards, etc. come in, and you can move things around and you see them as point sources. But we are going to introduce many other things, images that will look different that you'll be able to catch also. So I'll stop there and take any questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Hi. So you mentioned that you're looking at classroom testing and so on. So I'm, for example, teaching an Astro course right now, where students are actually doing observations with the Growth India telescope and so on. So we could actually integrate this quite deeply, where I gamify it for credit. And whatever your upward points idea is, I don't know if you are giving weight to follow-up imaging, but I can actually give them time on GIT. So, do you have plans? So, my question then is that when you are talking about education, are you talking mainly about school level thing, or are you talking about higher education as well? What's your goal then?
Right. So the goal right now has only been outreach, because this is developed for a requirement that NSF has in the funds that they provided for us. But there are all these possible things where you can extend it to any level, including professional astronomers, because these are real life girls, and then because it is connected to something like TNS, and we know how many, and we are bringing this rarity filter, so we can add additional things. We can add different layers. So, for instance, follow-up imaging, not just optical, but we could also connect things like does it have gamma ray, does it have X-ray, and so on. So there can be layers of that kind that can be trivially added. And so there are the gamification possibilities are very, very large. And if you want to incorporate this, that will be fantastic. Because again, the leaderboards that are there, while there are global leaderboards, you could have local competitions just within your class. You can say that
exactly.
We have something right here, right? So that's definitely possible.
At least I'm not clear that how the user feeds input. Is it meant for people who connected to what is this actually? It's really not clear. Can you
explain from the users?
No, on the usability point of view, do we have to have some database that they feed in information? How it works? Yeah,
so at the back end, it's only sky map, right? So whatever sky map has, the sky you see that as you move your phone around. And on top of that, the layer that we have added are transients from ZDF. So 50 to 200 transients every night, they will be new, that get added. So you'll see them points that look different. The 4 categories are 4 different colors. And when you click on them, it will show up a pop-up which tells you what kind of object that is. And then it will give you an opportunity to catch it. Just clicking is not a catch. And then it has a button for more info. So here, what we have,
Just to add, it's somewhat like the safety at home kind of effort.
No, not really, right? It's slightly different because we are not getting people to analyze the data in the current version. It is only outreach right now. So they can play a game. They can catch the transients. They can show it to their friends. They can post it on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever.
And where is the data coming from?
From ZTS, Wiki Transient Massive.
Okay, so that is getting continuously updated.
Every night at UTC 0. Yeah. So every night new 50 to 200 transients will be put. That is what this sparsification was, coming from those 100.
Or 5 if there's bogus. This search filters, if it can be integrated into there, it would be easy. Also, if I find an object, let's say not a simple object like Mars or Saturn, just to look at the sky map, if there's some new object which is not found, then some likely searches which are similar to
So
this
in
object.
fact, let me tell you about the search. If you simply type T and press the lens button, it takes you to the nearest transit.
Okay.
And so that way people will at least know where on the sky they should be moving the telephone, the phone to, so that they can find the nearest transit and they'll be able to catch that. And the other things like Mars and Saturn, they are from original sky map, so we are not touching those aspects. So we may also think how to modify those.
I think we should move on.
Yeah, and one more feedback is when the sky map is there imported, it can be a bit more slower while navigating through, because if a user wants to do it for 15 to 20 minutes, a slower map would give them a better experience. Thank you.
Let's thank Ashish one more.